Thank you all for being here. We're so honored to have you on this stage. I just want to throw the first question out to Adam and Ben. How did you get involved with this subject?
We heard it about on the radio. Mishi heard about it on NPR, and we heard that the Truth Commission was forming, and it just sounded amazing and important and historic, and we asked them if they were interested in us filming. At the time, we were teaching about genocide and colonialism in Rwanda, here in Boston and across the United States, through our organization, the Upstander Project, and we had been talking a lot about wanting to teach about genocide and colonialism in this country's history. And so Mishi and I started talking about this and said, wow, what an amazing opportunity to be able to do that. And little did I know how transformative it would be for me personally. And we dreamed about this moment when we could share this story with all of you. So thank you.
There are a lot of subjects on this stage, and I think that earlier Jennifer indicated that there's a lot of distrust. When you were approached about doing this film, would any of you like to address how you felt about it in your first reaction, and now that the film is here, how you feel about this?
I feel that this has brought to light, literally, first light, some things that have lurked in our, in the background of our society. Things that needed to be brought forth and spoken of, and things that needed to be brought forth to be healed. And we brought the truth, and looking forward to that healing and change.
And to be clear, all we did was film it. It's the work of Esther and Denise and all the other folks in what is now Reach that created the commission and sustained it and are now working to fulfill its recommendations and bring them across the state of Maine and elsewhere. So, it's yours.
Can you talk a little bit about the commission and the healing process that's going on?
So yes, Maine-Wabanaki Reach. I think you guys got some donation envelopes there. We are, we're still a group, and we're still heavily involved in implementing the recommendations. But after the commission, the funding kind of went away. During the commission, funders were really throwing money at us. It was, it was the new, the only one in the country. It had an ending time, a beginning time, and ending time. So funders were real happy to fund the commission, but they haven't been so forthcoming in funding the work that needs to be done after the commission. And like you heard Gizatanamuk say, that commission was just a first step, a very first step in this work that we have to do. So the ongoing healing work is still happening in our communities. Maine-Wabanaki Reach is focused on decolonization within a lens of restorative justice. We actively do healing circles in all of the prisons in Maine with Native inmates, which is work that came out of the Truth Commission. We started by wanting to make sure that our incarcerated relatives had an opportunity to share their story, and that has turned into, all these years later, we're doing these peace and healing circles, teaching inmates how to, a lot of self-soothing techniques. We're teaching them meditation and yoga and, EFT and the sacred medicines, and trying to get them to do their own healing, but also to survive being incarcerated, because it's a really tough place. And in our tribal communities, we are reclaiming, our ways of knowing and being that we already have. We know everything we need to do. We just need some space and resources to be able to do it. Reclaiming our language and our ceremonies, planting our own food, all of those radical acts of sovereignty are still happening.
So what is the reconciliation process after the beginning of this, which is establishing truth and some healing?
When we first started this, the word reconciliation got thrown in there because that's how truth commissions go, truth and reconciliation. One of the things we decided early on is that so much has been stolen from not only those of us who were taken and put into foster care, but has been taken from our children and our grandchildren. Those are things that can never be replaced, and there is no reparation in this world that's ever going to make up for that. So we chose not to focus on that. And we're asked that question all the time. And it's not a value that those of us who are Native people hold, but it's a really difficult question for us to answer because those values belong in other societies. I know in Canada, reparations was a big part of their process. Our process, like Esther said, it began way back in 1999, which is when I first told my story and became part of the ICRA work group that became the Truth and Reconciliation. And when I first saw the completion of the film in my home community last week, I was surprised. I had forgotten giving Adam a photo of my sisters and myself in state foster care. Towards the end, there's a picture, my sister standing in the middle with glasses on, and then the following picture of children is myself and my sisters. 2 of my older sisters are dead. 1 committed suicide. So how can any kind of reparations pay for that? And how can you even talk about reparations when, according to the report, it is the United States government, as well as the state of Maine, continues to try and eradicate Indigenous people from this country by doing these types of things. And until these things stop happening, then you can't even talk about things like reconciliation or things like reparations. All we can do, and all I can do, barely do sometimes, day by day, is get up in the morning, live my life, try to raise my grandson, try to be a good daughter, a good sister, a good mom, and that takes all the energy that I have for right now.